My name is Marie, and I am 58 years old. When my daughter Amanda called me petty for not wanting to see the woman who destroyed my marriage, I never imagined she would ban me from her wedding. The pain of your own child, choosing your ex-husband and his lover over you, cuts deeper than any knife. How could 28 years of motherhood mean so little? Let me know where you are watching from and hit that subscribe button. There are some wounds that time cannot heal, especially when they are inflicted by your own flesh and blood. For 25 years, my life felt like a fairy tale come true. Robert and I met during our sophomore year of college, married after graduation, and built what I believed was the perfect life together in our suburban Chicago home. He worked as a civil engineer while I taught English at the local high school. We were blessed with two beautiful children, Amanda and Michael, who filled our home with laughter and love. Amanda was our firstborn, a bright and spirited girl with her father's amber eyes and my stubborn determination. From the moment she entered this world, we shared a special bond. I still remember how she would climb into my lap during thunderstorms, seeking comfort in my embrace. As she grew older, our bond evolved into a friendship. We spent weekends shopping at the mall, sharing secrets over ice cream sundaes, and planning her future wedding down to the tiniest details. She once declared that her wedding would be incomplete without my homemade raspberry cake, a family recipe passed down from my grandmother. Michael came 3 years later, a thoughtful boy who preferred books to sports, and eventually set his sights on becoming a doctor. While Amanda gravitated toward her father, Michael was my shadow, following me around the house and absorbing my love for literature and learning. Our suburban home was the center of our universe, a 4-bedroom colonial with a sprawling backyard where we hosted summer barbecues and holiday gatherings. The kitchen, with its sunny breakfast nook, witnessed countless family meals, homework sessions, and late-night heart-to-hearts. In the living room, our collection of family photos chronicled our journey, hospital pictures with newborns, first days of school graduations, and family vacations to Florida, where we built sandcastles and collected seashells. Those family vacations were sacred traditions. Every summer, we would pack up our minivan and drive to a beachfront condo in Destin, Florida. Robert would wake the kids at dawn for shell hunting expeditions while I prepared breakfast on the balcony overlooking the Gulf of Mexico. In the evenings, we would roast marshmallows on the beach and share our dreams under the stars. Amanda always said she wanted a beach wedding someday, inspired by those magical family nights. Holidays were equally special. Thanksgiving meant turkey with all the trimmings and my mother's cornbread stuffing recipe. Christmas mornings found us in matching pajamas, opening presents by the fireplace, while holiday music played softly in the background. Birthdays were celebrated with elaborate homemade cakes, decorated to match the recipient's current passion, whether it was ballet for Amanda or astronomy for Michael. I had sacrificed career advancements for our family, turning down a department head position that would have required longer hours and more travel. Instead, I poured my energy into creating a warm and loving home for Robert and our children. I never regretted this choice, believing that a strong family foundation was more valuable than professional accolades. Robert was everything I had ever wanted in a partner, attentive, hard-working, and affectionate. He surprised me with weekend getaways for our anniversaries, brought home flowers for no reason at all, and never missed a school play or recital. Every night we would sit on the porch swing after the kids went to bed, discussing our day and planning our future. We talked about traveling the world once the children were grown, perhaps buying a vacation cottage in Michigan where future grandchildren could spend summers with us. I thought we were happy. I believed we had weathered the usual marital storms and emerged stronger. Even as our children grew into young adults, with Amanda pursuing event planning in the city and Michael away at medical school, Robert and I continued to enjoy each other's company. Or so I thought. The first signs of trouble appeared so gradually that I dismissed them. Robert began working later hours and traveling more frequently for projects, When he was home, he seemed distant, often retreating to his home office immediately after dinner. He stopped joining me on the porch swing, claiming fatigue or work deadlines. Our conversations became superficial, limited to household logistics and children updates. His phone became an extension of his hand, and he would step outside to take calls, his voice too low for me to hear. When I asked about these changes, he blamed work stress and assured me everything was fine. I believed him because I wanted to, because the alternative was too painful to consider. The night of our 25th anniversary dinner, I noticed Robert checking his phone repeatedly under the table, his expression a mixture of anxiety and excitement. When I reached for his hand across the candle-lit table, he seemed startled, as if he had forgotten I was there. That was the moment a tiny seed of doubt took root in my heart, though I was still months away from discovering the devastating truth that would shatter our family forever. The revelation came on a rainy Tuesday in April. I had stopped by the pharmacy to pick up Robert's blood pressure medication when I spotted a familiar figure in the greeting card aisle. Robert, who had told me he was in Milwaukee for a 3-day conference, was selecting a card with a stunning young woman by his side. Her hand rested casually on his arm, her head tilted toward him in a gesture of intimacy that made my stomach clench. I ducked behind a display of vitamins, my heart hammering against my ribs as I watched them laugh together. The woman was striking with long auburn hair and the confident posture of someone half my age. When Robert leaned down to kiss her cheek, the world seemed to tilt beneath my feet. Somehow I made it back to my car before the tears came blurring my vision as I clutched the steering wheel. That night, I searched through Robert's emails while he slept, finding dozens of exchanges with someone named Jessica Parker. The messages were intimate and explicit, filled with plans for their future together and complaints about his current life with me. Some dated back more than 8 months. Jessica Parker, as I would soon discover, was a 32-year-old architect who had joined Robert's firm the previous year. Their affair had begun during a business trip to Seattle, according to the emails, and had quickly evolved into something more serious than a casual fling. When confronted with the evidence the following evening, Robert did not deny it. Instead, he sat across from me at our kitchen table, the same table where we had shared thousands of family meals, and calmly explained that he had fallen out of love with me and in love with Jessica. "I never meant to hurt you, Marie," he said, his voice devoid of the emotion I desperately needed to hear. "These things just happen sometimes. People grow apart." "Things do not just happen," I replied, my voice shaking with rage and grief. "Affairs are choices, Robert. A series of deliberate choices you made every day for months." He had the audacity to sigh as if my pain was an inconvenience. "Jessica makes me feel alive again. Our marriage has been on autopilot for years." "So you fix it," I shouted, slamming my hand on the table. "You do not destroy 25 years of marriage because you are bored." But Robert had made his decision long before this conversation. When I demanded he end the relationship with Jessica, he refused. Instead, he suggested a divorce, claiming it would be best for everyone involved. The man who had vowed to love me until death now viewed me as an obstacle to his happiness. The following weeks were a blur of pain and practical matters. Robert moved out, taking only his personal belongings and leaving behind the family home we had built together. I learned that he had already purchased a modern downtown condo where he and Jessica could start their new life. A plan months in the making. Michael, away at medical school, was furious with his father. During a brief visit home, he confronted Robert in a heated exchange that ended with my son declaring he needed time before he could forgive such a betrayal. Amanda's reaction was more complicated. While initially supportive of me, she soon began to vacillate, suggesting that perhaps there were 2 sides to every story, and that her father deserved happiness too. The deepest cut came when I discovered that several of our friends had known about the affair for months. Barbara and Tom Williams, our neighbours for 15 years, admitted they had seen Robert and Jessica together at a restaurant in the city, but did not want to get involved. My colleague Diane confessed she had spotted them at a concert, but convinced herself it was a business meeting. These revelations left me feeling not only betrayed by my husband, but isolated in my pain. The divorce proceedings were clinical and devastating. After 25 years of marriage, our life together was reduced to assets and liabilities, divided with mathematical precision by attorneys who knew nothing of the dreams we had built and the memories we had created. The family home, too full of ghosts, now was sold with the proceeds split between us. At 55, I found myself starting over in a small two-bedroom apartment, surrounded by half of a life I no longer recognized. The months following the divorce were a study in contrasts. While I struggled to rebuild my life piece by painful piece, Robert appeared to be thriving. He received a promotion at work, traveled to exotic locations with Jessica, and seamlessly transitioned into his new life as if our marriage had been nothing more than an extended layover on his journey to true happiness. Michael became my rock during this period. Despite the demands of medical school, he called regularly and visited whenever possible. He helped me furnish my new apartment, fixed minor repairs, and listened patiently as I processed my grief. His unwavering support was a lifeline I clung to when the pain threatened to pull me under. Amanda, however, grew increasingly distant. Our shopping trips and lunch dates became less frequent, often cancelled at the last minute due to work commitments or plans with friends. When we did spend time together, she seemed distracted and uncomfortable, especially when I expressed any negative emotions about the divorce. 6 months after Robert moved out, Amanda dropped a bombshell during one of our rare dinners together. "I had lunch with Dad and Jessica last weekend," she announced, studying my reaction carefully. "They invited me to see their new place." The casual way she mentioned the woman who had helped destroy my marriage felt like a slap across the face. "I see," I managed to respond, pushing pasta around my plate. "And how was that?" "Their condo is amazing," Amanda continued, either oblivious to or ignoring my pain. "Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the lake. Jessica has incredible taste in decor." Each word was a needle piercing my heart. "I am glad you enjoyed yourself," I said, fighting to keep my voice steady. "Jessica is actually really nice, Mum," Amanda pressed on. "She asked about you, wanted to know how you were doing." The audacity of this woman, the architect of my misery, inquiring about my well-being as if she cared, was almost too much to bear. "How thoughtful of her," I replied, unable to keep the bitterness from my voice. Amanda frowned, setting down her fork with a clatter. "See, this is exactly why I did not want to tell you. You get that tone and everything becomes awkward." "What tone would you prefer I use when discussing the woman who had an affair with my husband of 25 years? I asked, genuinely curious about what response would satisfy her. "It has been almost a year, Mum," Amanda sighed. "Dad made a mistake, but he is still my father. Jessica is part of his life now, which means she is part of mine too. I wish you could just move on." Move on. As if my marriage had been a minor inconvenience rather than the central pillar of my adult life. As if the betrayal and humiliation were a stubborn cold I should have recovered from by now. These conversations became a pattern. Amanda would mention Robert and Jessica. I would react with hurt or anger, and she would accuse me of being bitter and unable to move forward. Meanwhile, she spent holidays with them, accepted expensive gifts from them, and shared details of her life with them that she no longer shared with me. My weekly therapy sessions became focused on this shifting dynamic with my daughter. Dr. Levine, my therapist, helped me understand that Amanda's behavior was partly a defense mechanism, By normalizing Robert's relationship with Jessica, she could preserve her idealized image of her father and avoid confronting the pain of her parents' divorce. She is caught in the middle, Dr. Levine explained during one particularly difficult session. And sometimes when people feel torn between two sides, they gravitate toward the side that seems happier, more stable, or offers less emotional demands. Robert and Jessica, with their carefree new life and financial abundance, presented an easier emotional landscape than my apartment full of grief and rebuilding. I tried to understand this to make peace with Amanda's choices while setting healthy boundaries for myself. Then came the announcement that changed everything. During a Sunday brunch at my apartment, Amanda arrived glowing with excitement, a stunning diamond ring on her left hand. "Jake proposed last night," she exclaimed, holding out her hand for me to admire the ring. "We are getting married next June." Jake Donovan was Amanda's boyfriend of just over a year, a successful investment banker she had met through work. He seemed kind and clearly adored my daughter, though I had only met him a handful of times due to Amanda's tendency to keep our family lives separate. Despite the complicated emotions swirling beneath the surface, this moment of joy broke through the tension between us. I hugged my daughter tightly, genuinely happy for her new beginning, even as I continued to struggle with my own ending. "Tell me everything," I urged, opening a bottle of champagne I had been saving for a special occasion. "How did he propose? Have you thought about venues?" For a few blissful hours, we were mother and daughter again, excitedly discussing wedding details and future plans. Amanda wanted a destination wedding at a beachfront resort, reminiscent of our family vacations to Florida. She talked about flowers and photographers' music and menu options. I offered suggestions and support, thrilled to be included in this important chapter of her life. The following weekend, Amanda invited me to meet Jake's parents over dinner. They were lovely people who welcomed me warmly and spoke of their excitement about uniting our families. For the first time in months, I felt hopeful about the future and my place in it. Perhaps this wedding would be a new beginning for Amanda and me as well. A chance to rebuild our relationship on different but equally meaningful terms. This hope sustained me through the initial wedding planning stages. Amanda and I visited bridal boutiques together, browsed wedding magazines, and created inspiration boards. I offered to help with certain aspects of the wedding, drawing on my organizational skills and attention to detail. "Would you like me to research florists?" I asked during one planning session. "Or help with the invitations? I could address them in calligraphy like we always talked about." Amanda hesitated, an odd expression crossing her face. "Actually, Jessica has offered to help with the invitations. She has connections with a great stationery designer through her firm." Just like that, the bubble of happiness burst. Jessica was already inserting herself into my daughter's wedding plans, claiming territory that should have been mine. I took a deep breath, trying to process this information without reacting negatively. "I see," I said carefully. "Well, I am happy to help with whatever else you need." Amanda nodded, but something had shifted in the atmosphere between us. The carefree planning session was over, replaced by the familiar tension that now characterized our relationship. As she packed up her wedding magazines to leave, she mentioned casually that she would be meeting Robert and Jessica the following weekend to discuss the father-daughter dance options. Once again, I found myself on the outside looking in, watching as the woman who had stolen my husband now threatened to steal my role in my daughter's wedding as well. The inevitable confrontation occurred during what should have been a routine wedding planning meeting at Amanda's apartment. Jake had ordered takeout from our favorite Thai restaurant, and we were reviewing venue options when Amanda cleared her throat nervously. "So, Mum, there is something important we need to discuss about the wedding guest list." She began, exchanging a glance with Jake. I looked up from the venue brochure I had been studying, immediately alert to the tension in her voice. Okay, I replied cautiously. As you know, Dad will be walking me down the aisle. Amanda continued fidgeting with her engagement ring. And well, Jessica will be attending as his plus one. Although I had suspected this might happen, hearing the words spoken aloud sent a wave of nausea through me. The image of sitting alone at my daughter's wedding, while Robert and Jessica played happy couple, was almost unbearable. I understand that Robert is your father, I said carefully. But surely you can see how uncomfortable it would be for me to spend your entire wedding day watching him with the woman he left me for. Amanda's expression hardened. It is not just about Dad wanting to bring her. Jessica has become important to me too. She has been helping with so many wedding details and giving really good advice. The revelation that Jessica had wormed her way further into my daughter's life than I had realized felt like another betrayal. So your father's affair partner is now your wedding planner. I could not keep the bitterness from my voice. This is exactly why I did not want to have this conversation, Amanda snapped. You are being petty, Mom. Jessica is not just Dad's affair partner. She is his girlfriend of 3 years now, and she is my friend. Your friend? I repeated incredulously. The woman who helped destroy your parents' marriage is your friend. Jake, who had been silent until now, attempted to intervene. Maybe we could seat everyone at different tables. The venue is large enough that you would not have to interact much. That is not the point, I insisted, my voice rising despite my efforts to stay calm. Amanda, I have tried to be understanding about your relationship with your father. I have never spoken ill of him to you despite what he did. But asking me to celebrate your special day while pretending to be okay with Jessica's presence is too much. It has been 3 years, Mom, Amanda countered. 3 years. How long are you going to hold on to this grudge? People move on, relationships end, new ones begin. That is life. Jessica is not some evil homewrecker. She is kind and supportive and has never said a bad word about you. How generous of her, I replied sarcastically. Should I send a thank you note to the woman who slept with my husband behind my back for not bad-mouthing me on top of it? Amanda slammed her hand on the coffee table, causing the water glasses to rattle. This is my wedding day. Not everything is about you and your feelings about Dad and Jessica. I want the people I care about there, and that includes Jessica. And what about the people who care about you? I challenged. What about my feelings I raised you, Amanda? I was there for every skinned knee, every school project, every heartbreak. Does that count for nothing now? Of course it counts, she insisted, her voice softening slightly. But I need you to understand that I am not choosing sides here. I am simply asking everyone to put aside their differences for one day, so we can celebrate without drama. Some differences cannot be put aside, I said quietly. Some wounds are too deep. Being in the same room as Jessica would be a constant reminder of the worst betrayal of my life. Amanda's expression hardened again. So you are saying that if Jessica attends, you will not come to my wedding? I am saying that her presence would make it impossibly painful for me, I clarified. Surely you can understand that. I like her mum, Amanda insisted. She is a friend and harmless. You are forcing me to choose. I am not forcing anything, I replied. I am simply being honest about my boundaries. Amanda stood up, her face flushed with anger. Fine. If you cannot set aside your feelings for one day for my sake, then I guess you give me no other option than to cancel your invitation. The words hung in the air between us, shocking in their finality. Jake looked alarmed, reaching for Amanda's hand. Honey, let's take a breath here. We do not have to decide this right now. But Amanda pulled away from him, her decision made. No, I am done walking on eggshells. If Mom cannot accept Jessica's presence at my wedding, then she does not need to be there at all. I sat perfectly still, feeling as though I had been physically struck. My own daughter was choosing her father's affair partner over me. The room seemed to spin around me as I gathered my purse and stood on unsteady legs. I think I should go now. I managed to say, my voice barely above a whisper. I left without another word, the magnitude of what had just happened, too enormous to process. In the elevator down to the lobby, my phone began to vibrate with incoming messages. Robert, who had obviously been immediately informed of our argument, was texting to tell me how selfish I was being and how I was ruining Amanda's special day with my inability to move forward. Even Jessica had the audacity to message me offering to talk things through so that everyone could be comfortable at the wedding. Their coordinated attack only deepened my sense of isolation and betrayal. By the time I reached my apartment, Michael had called 3 times. When I finally answered, his fury on my behalf was both comforting and alarming. "She cannot do this," he insisted. "I will talk to her, and if she does not change her mind, I will not attend either." "No, Michael," I said firmly despite my breaking heart. "Do not put yourself in the middle. Amanda is your sister, and you should be at her wedding, regardless of what happens between us." "But this is wrong, Mom," he argued. "Dad and Jessica are the ones who should feel uncomfortable, not you." I appreciated his loyalty, but knew that driving a wedge between my children would only compound the tragedy. "Promise me you will support your sister," I insisted. "This situation is painful enough without fracturing your relationship with Amanda too." After we hung up, I sat alone in my darkened apartment, the weight of Amanda's rejection crushing the breath from my lungs. My daughter's wedding had been a dream we had shared since she was a little girl, trying on my high heels and trailing a pillowcase veil behind her. Now I would not be there to see her walk down the aisle, to help her with her dress, to witness the moment she became a wife. And all because I could not pretend that watching Robert and Jessica play happy couple on this important day would not shatter the pieces of my heart I had so carefully glued back together. The weeks following Amanda's ultimatum were the darkest I had experienced since the initial discovery of Robert's affair. I moved through my days like a ghost, teaching my classes and fulfilling my obligations while feeling hollow inside. Sleep eluded me, and food lost its taste. The only thing that prevented a complete collapse was my weekly therapy sessions with Dr. Levine. "What Amanda is asking is unreasonable," Dr. Levine assured me during one particularly tearful session. "Healthy boundaries are not ultimatums or punishments. They are expressions of self-care." "But she is my only daughter," I said, shredding a tissue between my fingers. "Am I really going to miss her wedding because I cannot be in the same room as Jessica?" Dr. Levine leaned forward, her expression compassionate but firm. "Marie, consider this. Would you ask Amanda to spend her wedding day with someone who had deeply hurt her? Would you prioritize your comfort over her emotional well-being?" Put that way, the answer was clear. I would never ask my daughter to endure such pain, not even for my sake. The realization that Amanda did not extend me the same consideration only deepened my sense of loss. "The question now," Dr. Levine continued, "is not whether Amanda's request is fair, but how you move forward from here. What does healing look like for you if attending the wedding is not an option?" I had no answer. For so long, my identity had been defined by my roles as wife and mother. With my marriage ended and my relationship with Amanda fractured, I felt adrift, unsure of who I was or what purpose remained for me. One evening, while listlessly scrolling through social media to distract myself, I came across a former colleague's post about her volunteer work building schools in Tanzania. The photos showed smiling children, grateful parents, and a sense of purpose that seemed almost foreign to me now. On impulse, I clicked the link to the organization's website, Build Tomorrow, and began reading about their mission to improve educational opportunities in rural communities. The idea took root slowly. At first, it was just a fantasy, an escape from my painful reality. But as I researched more about the program and the community they served, something shifted inside me. The savings I had set aside to help with Amanda's wedding would now be unused. Perhaps those funds could serve a different purpose, one that would give meaning to this painful chapter of my life. I contacted the organization and spoke with the program director, a retired teacher named Carol, who had founded Build Tomorrow after a transformative volunteer experience of her own. Many of our volunteers come to us during major life transitions, Carol explained during our phone call. Retirement, empty nest, divorce, career changes. They're looking for purpose and perspective, and they find it in the most unexpected places. The next volunteer trip was scheduled to depart in 2 months, with a focus on building a school and community centre in the village of Mwanza. They needed volunteers with various skills, including teaching, which aligned perfectly with my 30 years of experience as an English teacher. I should warn you, Carol added, the conditions are basic. You'll have running water and electricity most days, but it's not a luxury experience. The work is physically demanding. The weather can be extreme, and cultural differences can be challenging. Rather than deterring me, these warnings stirred something I hadn't felt in years: excitement. The thought of facing physical challenges instead of emotional ones, of being valued for my skills rather than defined by my failed marriage, was incredibly appealing. When I mentioned the possibility to Michael during his weekend visit, his initial reaction was concern. "Tanzania isn't that dangerous for a woman traveling alone?" he asked, echoing the reactions I anticipated from others. "I would not be alone," I explained. "There's a group of 15 volunteers, plus local staff and coordinators. The organization has been operating safely for over 20 years. As I shared more details about the program and the community it served, Michael's concern gave way to cautious support. "You seem more animated than I've seen you in months," he observed. "If this is something you really want to do, I'll support you. But promise to stay in touch and come back if it's not working out." With Michael's blessing, I moved forward with my application, underwent a medical checkup, received the necessary vaccinations, and began preparing for a journey unlike any I had taken before. I withdrew the $5,000 I had saved for Amanda's wedding and purchased my plane tickets, necessary supplies, and made a donation to the school building project. The night before my departure, I sat down to write Amanda a letter. Despite our estrangement, I could not leave the country for 6 months without explaining my decision. The words came slowly at first. Then, in a rush of emotion I had been holding back. "Dear Amanda," I wrote, "by the time you read this, I will be on my way to Tanzania for a volunteer teaching and school building project. I want you to know that despite our recent difficulties, I love you deeply and always will. Your wedding day should be filled with joy, not tension or sadness. While I cannot pretend to be comfortable with Jessica's presence, I also will not cast a shadow over your celebration with my absence. Instead, I have chosen to channel my energy into helping others during this time. The money I had saved to help with your wedding is now funding this volunteer work. I believe this is a better use for it than sitting unused in my account while I mourn what might have been. I will be gone for 6 months. During this time, I hope you will reflect on the value of family bonds that, while sometimes strained, are irreplaceable. I will always be your mother, Amanda, even when we disagree. That love does not come with conditions or expiration dates. I wish you and Jake every happiness on your wedding day and in your life together. Know that I will be thinking of you even from thousands of miles away." I sealed the letter and gave it to Michael to deliver after my departure, knowing that a direct handoff might lead to another painful confrontation. Then I finished packing my modest luggage, set my alarm for 4 a.m., and tried to sleep before the journey that would change my life in ways I could not yet imagine. Stepping off the small aircraft onto the dusty airstrip in rural Tanzania was like entering another world. The heat hit me first, a dry, relentless warmth, unlike Chicago's humid summers. Then came the colors, the vibrant reds and oranges of the soil, the lush greens of Denjin, of distant hills, the bright patterns of local women's clothing as they moved gracefully with baskets balanced on their heads. Our group was met by Jabari, the local program coordinator, whose broad smile and confident English immediately put us at ease. "Welcome to Mwanza," he announced, helping us load our luggage onto a rugged van. "Your work here will change lives, including your own." At the time, I dismissed his words as standard welcome rhetoric. I had no idea how prophetic they would prove to be. The volunteer compound consisted of simple concrete buildings with metal roofs, basic but clean accommodations with bunk beds, shared bathrooms, and a central meeting area where we would take our meals and gather for evening discussions. My roommate was Eleanor, a retired nurse from Vancouver with salt and pepper hair, and a dry sense of humor that immediately endeared her to me. "First time in Africa?" she asked as we unpacked our belongings. "First time anywhere in a long time," I admitted. My ex-husband and I always talked about traveling after the kids were grown, but life had other plans. She finished with an understanding nod. "Same here. Lost my Bernard to cancer 5 years ago. Spent a year crying, another year angry, then decided Bernard would kick my behind if I wasted any more time. Been volunteering ever since." Eleanor's matter-of-fact approach to grief was refreshing after years of therapy speak and emotional cautiousness from friends afraid to say the wrong thing. Over the following days, I would learn that many of my fellow volunteers had similar stories of lost change and searching for new purpose. Our work began immediately. The school building project was already underway with local labourers handling the skilled construction, while volunteers assisted with simpler tasks, mixing cement moving materials, painting, and setting up classroom spaces. Mornings were devoted to construction, while afternoons were split between teaching English to local children and cultural exchange activities with community members. My first attempt at mixing cement under the scorching sun left me exhausted and sore in muscles I did not know existed. That night, I collapsed into my bunk, wondering if I had made a terrible mistake. At 58, was I too old for this kind of physical labor? But morning brought renewed determination and unexpected joy. The local children arrived at the construction site after their morning chores, curious about the foreigners building their new school. A little girl named Keone approached me shyly, offering a tiny wildflower with a solemn ceremony that required no translation. Her smile when I tucked the flower behind my ear was worth every aching muscle. Keone became my shadow during the afternoons, eagerly absorbing English words and teaching me Swahili in return. At 10 years old, she possessed an intellectual curiosity and determination that reminded me of Amanda at the same age, though I tried not to dwell on the comparison. "Teacher Marie," she would call, pointing to objects and naming them in Swahili, then waiting expectantly for the English equivalent. Our vocabulary lessons expanded daily from simple nouns to complex concepts. Her favorite English phrase became, "perhaps tomorrow," which she applied to everything from learning new words to finishing construction on the school. "Will we paint classroom today?" she would ask in her developing English. "Perhaps tomorrow," I would reply, and she would dissolve into giggles at hearing her phrase returned to her. Beyond the children, I found unexpected connection with Amara, a local widow raising 3 children alone after losing her husband to malaria. Despite our different backgrounds, we shared the experience of rebuilding a life after profound loss. During community dinners where volunteers and locals shared meals and stories, Amara would often sit beside me, her quiet presence a comfort in the unfamiliar setting. My husband, 5 years gone, she told me one evening, her English broken but understandable. First days, no wish to live. Then children need food, need school. No time for sadness when children hungry. Her straightforward pragmatism put my own grief into perspective. I had wallowed in pain while surrounded by comfort and security. Amara had 3 young lives depending on her resilience. The physical demands of the work proved unexpectedly therapeutic. Each day of lifting, carrying, and building left me too exhausted for midnight ruminations about Amanda's wedding or Robert's betrayal. I fell into dreamless sleep each night and woke with purpose each morning. The calluses forming on my once soft hands became badges of pride, tangible evidence of my contribution. Evening gatherings around a communal fire became a time for sharing and reflection. Volunteers and locals alike would offer stories, songs, or observations about the day's work. During one such gathering, an elderly village woman named Hadia shared wisdom that pierced through my lingering resentment. To hold anger is like drinking poison and expecting other person to die, she said through a translator, her wrinkled face solemn in the firelight. You not forgive for them, you forgive for you. It was not a new concept. My therapist had expressed similar sentiments many times. But hearing it from this woman who had endured hardships I could scarcely imagine gave the words new weight. As weeks became months, the school building took shape, transforming from foundation to walls, to completed classrooms with windows, doors, and even a small library stocked with donated books. My English classes grew from basic vocabulary lessons to reading circles with older students translating for younger ones. Most surprisingly, I discovered joy again. Not the cautious contentment I had managed in the months after the divorce, but genuine, spontaneous happiness. It emerged unexpectedly in Keone's delighted laughter when she mastered a difficult English phrase in the vibrant sunset over the savannah, in the sense of accomplishment when a wall I had helped build stood strong against the afternoon rains. When the 2-month mark approached the date I had originally planned to return home, I contacted the program director about extending my stay. We would love to have you continue, Carol assured me. Your teaching experience has been invaluable and the children adore you. But what about your life back home? My life back home. The apartment that never quite felt like mine. The empty evenings. The wedding I would not attend. My son can handle my affairs for a few more months. I decided. I think I am needed more here right now. As I drafted an email to Michael explaining my decision to extend my stay, I realized that for the first time in 3 years, I had gone an entire day without thinking about Robert Jessica or even Amanda's wedding. The wounds were still there, but they no longer defined me. In their place was growing something new. Pride in meaningful work connection with a community that valued my contributions and a sense of self separate from my roles as wife and mother. The school's dedication ceremony, held 4 months into my stay, became a village-wide celebration. Children performed songs they had practiced for weeks. Community leaders gave speeches thanking the organization and volunteers. Mothers prepared a feast of local specialties that we ate with our hands seated on woven mats under the stars. Keone sought me out during the festivities, her face serious despite the joyous atmosphere. "Teacher Marie go home soon?" she asked clearly, having overheard discussions among the volunteers. "Not yet," I assured her. "I stay 2 more months. We learn many more English words together." Her smile illuminated her face. "Perhaps tomorrow we start chapter book," she suggested, referring to the simplified readers I had been using with the advanced students. "Not perhaps," I corrected with a smile of my own. "Definitely tomorrow." As I watched this child who had become so dear to me rejoin her friends, I realized I had found something I never expected in this remote village, a future I could look forward to one day at a time. Exactly 1 year after I boarded a plane to Tanzania, I received an email that changed everything. The subject line simply read, "From Amanda," and my hand trembled as I clicked to open it at the community center's single computer terminal. "Dear Mum," it began, "I don't know if you'll get this since Michael says your internet access is limited. I hope you do. There's so much I need to say. First, I'm sorry. So deeply, completely sorry for the ultimatum I gave you about the wedding. It was unfair and cruel, and I've regretted it every day since. Jake helped me see how wrong I was to ask you to endure Jessica's presence after everything that happened. I postponed the wedding. We're replanning something smaller, more meaningful, and I desperately want you there. Not just as a guest, but as my mother involved in every aspect if you're willing. Michael has been showing us the photos and videos from your work in Tanzania. Mum, you look incredible. There's a light in your eyes I haven't seen in years. The school you helped build the children you're teaching. I'm so proud of you for turning your pain into something beautiful. I miss you. I miss the relationship we had before everything fell apart. Dad's choices damaged our family in ways I didn't fully understand until recently. I was so desperate to preserve some sense of normalcy that I ignored how deeply he hurt you. How unfair it was to expect you to just get over it. Can you forgive me? Can we start again? Jake. And I would like to visit you in Tanzania, if that's possible, or meet you when you return to the States. Please let me know if you're willing to talk. Love always, Amanda. I read the email 3 times, tears streaming down my face. Amara, who had become my closest friend in the village, found me there, concern etched in her features. Bad news from home. She asked, her English much improved over our months of friendship. No, I replied, wiping my eyes. Good news, I think. My daughter wants to reconcile. Amara's face broke into a wide smile. This blessing from God. You go to her. The question gave me pause. A year ago, I would have boarded the first available flight home at the slightest chance of reconciliation with Amanda. Now I had commitments here, relationships that had become precious to me, work that fulfilled me in ways I had not experienced in decades. Not right away, I decided. I will finish my time here first. My response to Amanda was measured but warm. I expressed my joy at hearing from her my willingness to move forward and my plans to return to the States in 3 months when my extended volunteer commitment concluded. I suggested we begin with video calls when internet connectivity allowed and work toward an in-person reunion when I returned. Over the following weeks, Amanda and I rebuilt our relationship one conversation at a time. The distance and technological barriers actually helped, forcing us to focus on meaningful exchange rather than surface pleasantries. She shared her realizations about her father's behavior and her regret at having minimized my pain. I shared stories about Tanzania, the children I taught, and the perspective I had gained. During one particularly clear video call, Amanda revealed what had precipitated her change of heart. Jake and I went to dinner at Dad and Jessica's place, she explained. Jessica made some comments about you that were really inappropriate jokes about your age and appearance. When I defended you, Dad took her side. They both suggested I needed to loosen up and stop being so sensitive. She paused, clearly emotional. That was when I realized how they must have talked about you all along and how I'd allowed myself to be complicit in it. Jake was furious. He told Dad that if that's how they spoke about family, we wouldn't be spending much time with them anymore. Jake appeared briefly on screen, waving hello, before giving Amanda privacy to continue our conversation. His support of Amanda's reconciliation with me had clearly been instrumental, and I felt a surge of gratitude toward this man who would soon be my son-in-law. We've scaled back the wedding plans completely, Amanda continued. No beach resort, no 200 guests. Just a small ceremony in Michael's garden with our closest friends and family. If you're willing, I'd still like you to help me choose my dress when you get back. By the time my return flight to Chicago approached Amanda, and I had reached a new understanding. The easy closeness of her childhood would not magically return, but in its place was growing a more mature relationship based on mutual respect and honest communication. My departure from Mwanza was bittersweet. The children presented me with handmade cards and small gifts. Keone, now reading English at a fourth grade level, gave me a bracelet of colourful beads she had made herself. You come back someday, Teacher Marie? She asked, her big eyes serious. Yes, I promised and meant it. Not perhaps, but definitely. Amara embraced me tightly the morning of my departure. You different woman now, she observed. Strong like baobab tree. She was right. The Marie who boarded the flight home bore little resemblance to the broken woman who had arrived a year earlier. My skin was sun-darkened, my body lean and muscular from physical labor. More importantly, my spirit had healed in ways I had not thought possible. The reunion with Amanda at Chicago O'Hare Airport was tearful and joyous. She had come alone, giving us space for this important moment without distractions. As we embraced in the arrivals hall, I felt the final pieces of my heart clicking back into place. I missed you so much, Mum, she whispered against my shoulder. I'm so sorry for everything. I missed you too, I replied, holding her face between my palms. But I think we both needed this time to find our way back to each other. The weeks that followed were filled with wedding preparations, now a joint endeavor that strengthened our bond. We selected a simple but elegant gown that complemented Amanda's natural beauty. We addressed invitations together at my dining room table, just as we had always planned. We discussed flowers, music, and menu options, finding compromise and common ground with ease. Robert, properly chastened by Jake's confrontation, maintained a respectful distance during the planning process. When we did interact at pre-wedding events, he was polite but subdued, clearly uncomfortable with the new dynamic between Amanda and me. The wedding day itself was everything a mother could wish for her daughter. Michael's backyard had been transformed with twinkling lights and fragrant flowers. Amanda was radiant as she walked down the makeshift aisle on Robert's arm, her eyes seeking mine in the front row. I wore the beaded bracelet Keone had given me, a tangible reminder of how far I had come. During the reception, Robert approached me as I stood watching Amanda and Jake's first dance. You look well, Marie, he said awkwardly. Tanzania obviously agreed with you. It did. I confirmed feeling neither anger nor attraction toward this man who had once been the center of my world. It gave me perspective. He nodded, studying his drink. I owe you an apology. For a lot of things, but especially for how things ended. It was cowardly. 3 years ago, I had longed for this acknowledgement. Now I found it mattered far less than I had expected. Thank you for saying that, I replied simply. Jessica and I broke up, he added after a pause. About 2 months ago. Turns out she's not as interested in men once they're fully available. I felt a flash of vindication, but no real satisfaction in his pain. I'm sorry it didn't work out, I said, and was surprised to realize I meant it. Robert looked startled by my response. That's generous of you. Not really. I shrugged. I've learned that harboring resentment only hurts the person holding on to it. I wish you well, Robert. I really do. As he walked away, Amanda approached her face concerned. Everything okay? Better than okay, I assured her. Just closing a chapter peacefully. Later that evening, as the celebration continued around us, Amanda and Jake shared their news that they would be volunteering with Build Tomorrow for 3 weeks that summer. "We want to see the school you helped build," Jake explained. "Amanda says it changed your life, and we want to understand why." "It did change my life," I agreed. "But not in the way I expected. I went there running away from pain, but I ended up running towards something much more important: purpose." The following week, I signed a contract with Build Tomorrow to become their education program coordinator, splitting my time between administrative work in Chicago and on-site training in Tanzania. My first assignment would be returning to Mwanza for 3 months to establish a teacher training program at the school we had built. Michael, now in his medical residency, was already making plans to volunteer his medical skills during his next vacation. Amanda and Jake discussed the possibility of Build Tomorrow expanding into event planning for fundraising galas. What had begun as my solitary journey was evolving into a family commitment to service. Looking back at the painful ultimatum that had once seemed like the end of my world, I now recognized it as the beginning of a journey I would never have chosen, but could not regret. The daughter who had once banned me from her wedding was now my partner in building a new chapter for both of us. The pain that had once consumed me had been transformed into purpose and perspective. Have you ever found that what seemed like your darkest moment actually led you to unexpected light? I would love to hear your stories of resilience and renewal in the comments below. Please, like and subscribe if my journey resonated with you, and share this video with someone who might need to hear that pain can be transformed into purpose. Thank you for listening to my story. And remember that sometimes our greatest wounds lead us to our greatest healing. Perhaps tomorrow will bring new beginnings for you too.